Democracy on Trial, Obasanjo's bold declaration. Olusegun Obasanjo, Nigeria's former president, has ignited a firestorm of debate. His recent pronouncements on the state of democracy in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, have sent shockwaves through the continent. Speaking at a colloquium in Abuja, Obasanjo declared that democracy is failing in Africa. His words, sharp and direct, have challenged the very foundation of governance as we know it. Obasanjo's critique is not merely an indictment of a system. It is a lament for a continent grappling with its identity. He argues that the current democratic model, inherited from the West, is ill-suited to the African context. It is a system, he posits, that has failed to deliver on its promises of prosperity, justice, and equality. This failure, according to Obasanjo, is evident in the rampant corruption, crippling poverty, and persistent instability that plague many African nations. He points to the widening gap between the rich and the poor, the erosion of traditional values, and the rise of ethnic tensions as symptoms of a system in deep distress. Obasanjo's words are a call to action, an urgent plea for introspection and reform. He has thrown down the gauntlet, challenging African leaders and citizens alike to confront the uncomfortable truths about democracy's shortcomings on the continent. The Western Shadow Democracy and African Realities. At the heart of Obasanjo's critique lies a fundamental question. Can a system of governance conceived in the West truly flourish on African soil? He argues that democracy as currently practiced in Africa is a pale imitation of its Western counterpart. It is a system, he contends, that has been imposed rather than embraced, transplanted rather than cultivated. Obasanjo points to the historical context of colonialism, which disrupted traditional African systems of governance and imposed foreign models that were often at odds with local customs and values. He argues that the legacy of this imposition continues to haunt Africa today, with many countries struggling to reconcile Western democratic ideals with their own cultural norms. The result, according to Obasanjo, is a hybrid system that is neither truly Western nor truly African. This hybridity, he suggests, has created a breeding ground for corruption, as politicians exploit the weaknesses of both systems to enrich themselves at the expense of the masses. Furthermore, Obasanjo criticizes the winner-takes-all nature of Western democracy, which he believes exacerbates ethnic and regional tensions in diverse African societies. He argues that this system encourages a zero-sum game, where political power is seen as a means to an end rather than a responsibility to serve the common good. A New Dawn, Reimagining Governance in Africa. Obasanjo's critique of Western democracy is not a rejection of democratic principles. Rather, it is a call for a reimagining of democracy, a tailoring of its principles to fit the unique realities of the African continent. He envisions a democracy that is rooted in African values, one that draws inspiration from the continent's rich history and traditions of governance. He points to pre-colonial Africa, where various forms of governance existed, ranging from centralized kingdoms to decentralized village councils. These systems, Obasanjo argues, were often characterized by consensus building, respect for elders, and a strong emphasis on community. While acknowledging that these traditional systems were not without their flaws, Obasanjo believes they offer valuable lessons for contemporary Africa. He suggests that by incorporating elements of these traditional systems into modern democratic frameworks, African nations can create more inclusive and responsive forms of governance. This reimagining of democracy, Obasanjo argues, must go beyond mere rhetoric. It requires a fundamental shift in mindset, a move away from the top-down approach of Western democracy towards a more participatory and inclusive model. Echoes of Debate. Diverse Voices, Uncertain Future. Obasanjo's pronouncements have not gone unchallenged. The colloquium in Abuja became a crucible of debate, with prominent figures from Nigeria's political landscape offering a range of perspectives on the state of democracy in the nation and beyond. Some echoed Obasanjo's concerns. Bishop Matthew Kuka, in his keynote address, lamented that Nigeria's democracy seemed to benefit only a select few. Peter Obi, a former presidential candidate, went further, asserting that democracy in Nigeria had already collapsed. Others, however, struck a more cautious tone. Tajuddin Abbas, for instance, argued that democracy had become an accepted model of leadership in Nigeria, highlighting the significance of elections as expressions of popular will. The debate sparked by Obasanjo's words is a testament to the complexities of democracy in Africa. It is a debate that transcends the walls of the colloquium, resonating in the streets, marketplaces, and homes of ordinary citizens. The future of democracy in Nigeria, and indeed in Africa as a whole, remains uncertain. What is certain, however, is that the conversation ignited by Obasanjo will continue to shape the continent's political landscape